This letter from Charlotte was given to the Somerset Public Library on June 19, 2019 by Jim Dubrow. The envelope is addressed to Miss Winifred Lynch of Kimberly, Wisconsin. The return address is Box 444, New Richmond, Wisconsin. The cancellation stamp is dated September 1929 at 7:30 p.m., New Richmond, Wisconsin. The letter is dated Somerset, Sunday p.m. Dear everybody, I just heard and read some news, so I thought I'd get the first word in. The Jewish alcohol makers of Somerset were raided yesterday. If you can get hold of a Minneapolis or St. Paul paper, you want to read about it. The St. Paul federal officers got suspicious when Somerset kept the Stillwater Road open, so they looked around till they heard of the Jews. I guess there were some Italians in it too. They knew the Jews always kept the place guarded. I told you a person had to have a password to get in. So they, the officers, got a couple of cars and 15 men with guns and came over. They got stuck a mile east of Stillwater and had to have a sled. They and all their guns tipped once. I guess, even though they are federal officers, they have to get a warrant from Hudson. However it was, that young O'Brien that's a lawyer in Hudson called Somerset up and told them. Each moonshiner pays him $7 a month. Some woman in Stillwater called too and warned them. The Jews hired a car and went to Burkhart and caught a train and beat it, leaving the whole mess. The officers went to the Liberty Farm where the Jews had been and found some moon, some alcohol, 1,000-gallon still, and all the cooling apparatus and pans, etc. The Jews left everything in the house, including their new radio and all their clothes. The officers took everything that was any good and then went to Somerset to inquire about the Jews. They went around with their guns in one hand and bottles of moon in the other. Everyone in Somerset was scared stiff, but somehow no one had ever even heard of the Jews. No one knew a thing. The papers say that the officers said Somerset was like a carnival. Everyone was running wild, and everyone on the party line was butting in to see what was going on. Cora Dufresne was in the telephone office. She said all the moonshiners were calling each other up. If the officers had only rubbernecked, they'd have gotten all the dope. Mrs. Matterjeans called Ben Constance to see what in the heck she should do with all their moon. She had it in the car, but didn't know where to take it. He told her to hide it in a snowdrift in the field. The Barrals and the Campos all kept the lines hot, trying to find out where the officers were going next. A Menard girl was home alone, and her mother was in St. Paul. She got long distance and asked her mother what should she do with the stuff upstairs, and should she throw away the mash in the basement? Her mother told her, for Pete's sakes, no, just hide it. So that mash went in a snowdrift too. Cora said that there were 12 plugs to use on the switchboards. All afternoon she used them all and even had calls she couldn't answer. They called and asked her if she knew where the officers were going next. But the officers only had warrants for the Jews. So the officers only got the Jews' stuff, and the Jews have skipped the country. When the guys went back to St. Paul, the bootleggers went out in the fields and brought in their mash and moon just as good as ever, but they surely had had a scare. The papers say that in western Wisconsin, the alcohol makers have formed a kind of syndicate. If they are driven out of one place, they just move to one of their other factories. They say they can't do much till the roads are opened in spring. Then God help Somerset. I suppose the moonshiners will have a lot of high masses said before then. Signed, Shar of Moon Village, as Flora says.